Okay, so I'm just going to introduce myself, and then the other peer career advisors are going to introduce themselves, and then we can jump into answering your questions. So my name is Sydney. I'm a senior at SCU. My majors are history and ethnic studies with a biology minor. And after SCU, I hope to go to grad school to become a nurse practitioner. Kristine, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So I'm Kristine Fisher-Colbury. I'm a junior economics major with a minor in real estate, and I'm interested in sales and finance.
Justin, you want to go ahead?
I'm Justin North. I'm a junior accounting and information systems major. I'm interested in finance and accounting, just trying to figure out something within those two fields.
All right, and Matt?
Yeah, thanks, Sydney. Hi, everyone. My name is Max Campos, and I'm a sophomore double majoring in finance and political science. After Santa Clara, I plan on going to law school and then working in corporate law.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we also have some other Career Center staff here. We have Shelly, Jen, Melissa, who are also here to support you guys. So yeah, once again, I just want to say we're going to go through some questions that we thought of before, but at any point, just put your questions in the chat so that we know what you guys actually want to hear from us. You can also come off mute and ask questions as well, whatever you're more comfortable with. But while you guys are putting questions in the chat, we're going to go ahead and start with some questions that we prepared. Let me just see. Okay. 1 second. Okay. Perfect. Okay, people are still coming in, but I think we're still going to get started. So, Kristine, I'm going to start with you for this first question. How can I be a competitive applicant if I haven't had any internships or jobs aligned with the roles that I'm currently applying for?
Right. So this is a really good question. And I honestly want to answer it by redefining what it means to be competitive, because if you look at me and you just kind of look at my transcript / my GPA, my GPA is a 3.3 right now, which isn't like on the like higher or like lower scale. But if you just kind of look at me surface level, I don't seem like a competitive applicant for a lot of things. But given a lot of my extracurriculars and different past experiences that I've had, I am a really competitive applicant depending on the job that I apply to. So let's say for an engineering job, I'm not a competitive applicant because I'm an economics major, but for a sales job or a job in real estate or any sort of customer service or industry like that, I am a really competitive applicant. So I think the best way to approach that is redefining yourself and like finding where you are competitive, A, and B, making sure that you are promoting yourself as if you are a competitive applicant. Because if you don't think that you deserve the job, then how are people going to give it to you? And that's my best answer.
Yeah, thank you. Justin or Max, do you have anything that you guys could add for how to be a competitive applicant when you feel like your background and history doesn't really support the jobs that you're applying for in the current moment?
I think Kristine made some great points there. I don't really have anything major to add on, but I'm guessing, or one thing that I would recommend is that even if you don't have any experience in the specific industry that you want to go into, even if you worked like a job over the summer during high school, put that on your resume and then try to highlight the different experiences or different things that you learned in that job that can then apply to a future internship or whatever you're looking for.
No, that's a great answer, Max. I was going to say something very similar, that any experience, volunteer work, job, internship that you've had in the past, even if it seemed really minor to you, or even if it seems super irrelevant to the jobs you're applying for now, they all gave you skills and experiences that you can use for your new jobs that you're applying for. And so don't like discount the experiences you've had, even if they seem super irrelevant or random to you. Like, they definitely gave you skills in the workforce. Maybe you learned how to public speak or make presentations. And even if that wasn't like a super official finance internship, it still like gave you really good skills that you can use to make yourself competitive when you're looking for future jobs. So that was great. Justin, you have anything to add?
I just add to what Max is saying, like most employers aren't going to expect you as a, student in college to have extensive experience in finance or sales or any of these different industries yet. So just like Sydney was talking about, just translate your high school experiences or other stuff that maybe you don't directly see the link to, the finance, whatever job, but try and translate how what you learned in that job will apply to the internship you're applying to.
Great. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next question. Again, I just wanna remind you guys, you can put anything in the chat that you want us to answer. You don't have to wait for us to get through all these questions. So just put them in the chat or come off mute. But our next question is, what are some steps that I can take during winter break to reduce stress during winter quarter as you continue the job search? And Max, I think I'm gonna start with you for this one.
Yeah, so I remember doing this last year. I was a freshman at the time. And, being at home during college, I didn't really have a good idea or even like much of a motivation to start applying for internships. And I thought for most freshmen, it was kind of out of reach to have a summer internship at that time. So during winter quarter, that's when I really started honing down on what the different options that I wanted to apply to and how I would achieve those goals. So I think, like I said earlier, it is a stressful time, but try to have a plan. And I think we're going to answer this later on, but have a plan. Maybe for like winter break, have an idea of what you want to put on your resume, have a generic cover letter, because a lot of jobs require those basic elements. And if you have one basic master resume, you can then tweak it to apply to any internships you're applying to. So I think the main thing is try not to wait too late. For winter quarter, try to get started and then maybe use VMOC, which is on the Career Center website. And it's like an AI software that can go through your resume and give you personalized feedback. And then after that, maybe make an appointment with one of us because we can go through your resume and your cover letters. And I think other than that, even if you don't have any general idea of where you want to go with your internship, it's just good having those two basic pieces of information because you can go anywhere with those.
Yeah, Justin, Kristine, do you guys have anything to add for what you would do over winter break to kind of reduce that stress winter quarter?
During winter break, obviously none of us want to be spending an absurd amount of time applying to internships. So every day I just try to give myself one task to do. So that was writing one cover letter or just submitting one application, just kind of breaking it down day by day. Just getting a little something done every day, which is something I'd recommend for winter break.
Yeah, I think everyone said it super well.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like winter break is a nice time because you don't have classes. So it is a nice like start for you to like get ahead or kind of catch up on some of the job search stuff that maybe you've been putting off because it's like finals and really busy now. We have a question in the chat, so we're gonna look at that one. Sarah asked, how can I find applications for internships specifically for summer? A lot of the open positions I see on Handshake are for spring or winter. Is there a way to filter the search? Is searching on this platform effective? I'm going to answer some of this, and then I'm going to open it up to Justin, Kristine, and Max. One, I would say you might be seeing a lot of open positions for spring or winter because you're looking fall quarter, which is awesome that you're on top of it. But as you continually look on Handshake, you'll start to see internships and jobs that are hiring for the summer specifically. I would also ask if you feel comfortable like putting in the chat like what major you are or what field you're looking into, because that might be affecting it as well. I know that I personally got my internship last summer in March, I think. And so that was obviously way later. So they weren't even hiring for the summer until like winter, spring quarter. Communication manager. Okay, awesome. Yeah. So they might just have a shorter recruiting cycle than business might. And so you might be looking farther ahead than maybe they're even expecting to hire applicants. But I would say continually look at Handshake. And Kristine also has another resource that maybe she'll talk about as well if Handshake isn't working out super great for you right now. So Kristine, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so like Sydney said, Handshake is honestly a great resource, and you could just be looking too early, but like you just might have to, keep on looking for the next couple weeks or months or however long it takes. But another resource I want to share with you guys is Angel List, and I'll go ahead and type that in the chat. And that is a website that is specifically for startups looking to hire people for their startups. And oftentimes there are other companies on there that are bigger than startups. And you can actually filter how big of a company that you want, either 1 to 10 people, 20 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 250, 500, whatever it is. And I highly recommend this for you if you are either like a freshman or you really want to get into the startup industry, and or if you don't really know what you want to do just yet, but you know that you kind of want to be working on a kind of all-encompassing role. Startups are really great for that, but also understand that a lot of startup internships will be very unstructured, and you might just end up doing a lot of different things without like a specific role. But yeah, AngelList is a great place to look. I highly recommend it. When my first job offers came off of AngelList my sophomore year, and a lot of my siblings have used AngelList to actually get full-time opportunities.
Yeah, Justin or Max, do you have anything to add for this question?
Yeah, I do have a quick thing to add in terms of the question. It says, is searching on Handshake effective? Kind of minor. I do think searching on Handshake is very effective, but I've heard different people across campus who apply for a lot of internships on there and may not hear back quickly or may not hear back at all. So I really recommend going on LinkedIn and trying to find who the recruiter for that role is. And if you can reach out to them and kind of develop rapport, it's much easier for them to find your resume and then send you to interviews, because they get so many resumes that yours might get lost in the shuffle. I know that happened last year. So I hadn't heard back from the internship that I wanted for like 2 weeks. And I ended up reaching out to the recruiter, had like a quick informational session with her, and then she helped push my application through. So I found that really helpful.
That's great insight, Max. Justin, do you have anything to add? Okay, nice. Oh yeah, and Jen also, she also works at the Career Center. She put something in a chat as well to help you kind of filter and learn how to use Handshake effectively. But thank you so much for your question. Keep putting questions in the chat. Okay, we're gonna go to our next prepared question. This one is, I haven't heard back from any of the positions I applied to. What should I do? Kristine, I think I'm gonna start with you on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It is probably the most frustrating thing to not hear back from companies. I think one of the things that you should kind of understand is that like it probably isn't you. The fact that if there's dead silence, it's probably not you. It's probably not your application. It's most likely the company either isn't actually ready to start recruiting actively for that role, or doesn't entirely know what they're doing for the summer, whether it's going to be remote or in person. I know last year I had a lot of frustration with this issue because I would apply to roles on LinkedIn, and Handshake is actually a good filter for this because like we actually look at the recruiters before we let them post anything. Anyways, so I would apply to roles on LinkedIn, and then I would talk to people that I just knew personally from those companies, and they'd be like, wait, we're not doing internships this summer. Like, I don't know why that's on LinkedIn. And so while it is super frustrating, I recommend just going through that specific company's website, making sure that they are actually hosting like that job that you've applied for, reaching out to the recruiter again to make sure. And then if it's still just radio silence, no matter what, I would say just kind of move on, kind of put your head down, work through that frustration, and move on to the next company, next position.
Yeah, I want to just add something really quick. I also last year got ghosted by so many companies. Like I would just apply and never hear back, like not even a rejection. And that's super frustrating because you're kind of waiting, and some of the jobs like I was really excited about, and I was like, oh, I really hope I get this, and I just didn't hear back. I would say apply to more jobs. Like even if you're waiting for one that you're super excited about, the odds are just better when you apply to more jobs. And when I kind of opened up my search and I stopped focusing so specifically on like one specific job position that I wanted, and I kind of opened it up to more stuff that I like was qualified to do. Then I did hear back and like got some interviews and then ended up getting hired for the summer. But my initial like jobs that I wanted, like I never heard back from, which was really frustrating. But I think it's super common. It's happened to a lot of my friends as well. And like Kristine said, I don't think it's personal. I don't think that means you're not a competitive applicant. I think that sometimes, yeah, recruiters are all over the place, or maybe they were only hiring like one or two people for a certain role. And so, yeah, like expand your search. Maybe it's not your dream job or what you were super excited about, but any experience, job, internship, volunteer work is super valuable when you're in college. So don't get too frustrated about not getting the perfect role, and just like try to get something that you could see yourself doing for the summer. Max or Justin, have any of you guys had experiences with like getting ghosted or not hearing back from a company that you applied to?
So the only time that I have been ghosted, I touched upon this a few minutes ago, but it was for my internship last summer. And I actually applied pretty late for that. I believe it was either in January of February of 2021. So I was on like the later end of that recruiting cycle. And I hadn't heard back from the listing for about 2 weeks. And I knew that their application deadline closed. And like that was my dream internship for the summer. So I really wanted to reach out and see if I could do anything to kind of expedite my application or make sure that my resume got reviewed in hopes of obtaining an interview. And yeah, I did reach out on LinkedIn to the recruiter. And I believe some Handshake listings say who the recruiter is. And I believe mine did last year as well. So I just put her name into LinkedIn, sent her a message, hopped on a quick phone call with her and like explained why I'm passionate about that listing, why I want to do it. And then she did help me get through and expedite to the interviews.
Awesome. Okay. Justin, anything to add? If not, we can move on.
I just tried to find internships that like, so last year I was a sophomore, I tried to find internships that SCU students who were a year ahead of me had in the fields that I was looking at. So then I could just go talk to them, like, how did you get this internship? How did you apply? Who should I contact in terms of recruiters? That's a tip I would have if you've been struggling and not really hearing back from companies, because that kind of gives you an inside track to certain companies and certain internships.
Okay, we have some questions in the chat. The first question is, do you have any tips on how to prepare for technical coding interviews for internships? So I personally am not STEM, so I'm not sure. Melissa just put a great resource in the chat. I would also just say in our office, we do mock interviews if you ever need help, like just practicing the interview process, also looking at Melissa's resource. I don't know if any of you guys have any more experience. I don't think any of us are STEM. Yeah, sorry that we don't have more to say about that one. Melissa, do you want to speak on anything for a second?
Yeah, my son's in the background, so sorry for any background noise. I think one thing, yeah, I think Vanya has some great points here, like look out for specific tech companies offering like coding interview workshops and things like that. So if you have one that you're going to be interviewing with or something similar, I think if you sit in on any of those virtual sessions, that could be really helpful. And in addition, like if you're looking for an internship or even an entry-level full-time job, I think a lot of times what hiring managers are looking for in those technical interviews are how you go about solving problems and less about the right answer. So just keep that in mind. I know there's a lot of pressure. Of course, you want to do things right, but most of all, they're just looking about how you think about a problem. So just try to remember that as you're going in, and of course, like brush up on things that you do know, so that you don't get any of those nerves like getting in your way when you go to the actual interview part.
Go. Thank you, Melissa, and thanks, Vanya, for putting other tips in the chat as well. I got another question that says, does SU offer any in-person resources to help us with our resumes? Yes, our office does help with resumes. If you go on your Handshake account, you can make a resume appointment with many of our career specialists. A lot of them are over Zoom, but you can also schedule in-person appointments as well. If you have any trouble making that appointment on Handshake, you can also just come into our office and we will schedule an appointment for you. So yeah, we would love to help you with your resume and cover letter too. We, as well as LinkedIn, we will help you with almost anything. So definitely make an appointment with someone in our office. They would love to go over your resume. We have, where's the career office? Okay, so the career center is by Benson, by the outside patio of Benson where the fountain is. We're right in that little patio quad area, across from campus ministry, I think, and yeah, like across from Kenna. So we're right there. But yeah, we would love to help. If like all of you guys should look through your Handshake account and see the different appointments available because we offer a lot of resources for students. Shelly also did put something else in the chat for the technical interview. So check that out as well. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for putting so many questions in the chat. Keep doing so. We're gonna move on to another question that we have prepared. Okay, this one I think I'm gonna ask Max. Are companies still hiring for interns and for new grads?
So from my understanding, it kind of depends on the industry. I know quite a few friends who have applied for investment banking roles. That recruitment season starts like June of this summer, and it kind of ended in September or October. So it really depends. But for most of you, companies definitely are still hiring. I would mainly look on Handshake and LinkedIn for that. And then one quick trick that I've learned like over the past year and a half is that a lot of job listings aren't even advertised on Handshake or LinkedIn. So if you know anyone working at companies that you might be interested in, I would maybe consider reaching out to them and doing like an informational interview, because I know some people who work inside the company can either give referrals for different internships, which kind of helps you get to the interview round, or they might even know about positions that haven't been posted yet. But yes, there are definitely companies still trying to hire for the summer. And I know like they're going to continue hiring probably until like May or sometime in the spring. So there's definitely enough time.
Yeah, and Max and Justin already have their internships for next summer, which is awesome. But Kristine, do you maybe want to talk about how you're actively searching right now? So
Yeah. So again, I can only speak to really my experience. And so I'm a junior and an economics major, and I'm only looking for sales roles. And so a lot of sales roles are actively recruiting right now. But in general, I would say that the answer is always yes. There are very rare cases wherein companies are not looking to hire, new grads or collegiate students. Except for, like Max said, like investment banking is probably one of the only industries that will like stop recruiting. And even then, like there are always workarounds. There are always people you can talk to at that company and things like that. I just last year, I was told I was looking too early, and then so I started looking again in March, but that would be considered too late this year. And I actually didn't get my job offer until April or May. And so it really, like, I know that that's frustrating to hear, but like, it really just depends. And I would argue to just not stop looking until you find something that you are really passionate about. And even if you do get an internship and you end up not liking it, like that is also really valuable within and of itself, because I think arguably you learn a lot more from experience you don't like than from experience you really love, because the next year or in the future when you look for your next job, you really will have hard points of knowing exactly what you want from a job or an internship in the future. But my argument is yes, everyone is always looking, yes, unless it's like investment banking or I don't know, something else, but stuff always happens. Yes, they're always hiring.
yeah, just gonna add on to what Kristine said. My internship last summer, yeah, I already said this, but yeah, I didn't even get it until March, which was very stressful, but people are hiring right up until June. One of my roommates literally got her internship for last summer in June, which was very stressful, but still, like, they're always hiring. And also what Kristine said, especially for first years and sophomores, yeah, the internship or job that you get does not have to be perfect, and it probably won't be because you don't have that much experience. And so, yeah, look around, take any job or apply to any job that you think you could see yourself doing and that you think you could learn a lot from, but don't worry so much about it being like Big Four or super prestigious job. Like that's kind of unrealistic for first years and sophomores. Brian, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, so on Handshake, does it always, like, are all the things on Handshake always, I guess, exactly what like, in terms of job opportunities, is it always like what the actual recruiter wants? So, like, for example, I was just scrolling through some of them right now, and I just put in my like home location, which is Seattle, because I'm probably gonna go back there for summer. And it said that Goldman Sachs had like some opportunities in Washington and Seattle. But then when I went onto their actual website, it doesn't like show any Washington opportunities. So is there sometimes like different I guess not like it's not always one for one when you're looking at Handshake?
Yeah, I'm going to speak to my own experiences because I've kind of experienced both. On one hand, I've experienced where a position on Handshake that said like was available, I would apply to, but then yeah, the website wouldn't list it and I wouldn't hear back. And so I kind of assume that maybe they just didn't update the Handshake account, or maybe they had set the Handshake like deadline to something way farther than it actually was, and they actually like did already hire for that position. And so that's happened to me before. But I've also had the opposite where the website didn't list it but Handshake did, and the company did reach out. And so I think that's kind of on companies, like either they're not updating their website or they're not updating the Handshake posts that they made, which can be super frustrating as an applicant to wonder whether or not like you're wasting your time and energy applying. But I would say, yeah, like you could, like Max did, like reach out to the recruiter specifically just to ask if it's still an available role, or you could just apply on Handshake and see what happens. Yeah, I don't know, Justin, Kristine, Max, if any of you guys have experienced that where it was either listed on Handshake and not listed on the website, or vice versa.
I have not experienced that, but I think intuitively, probably I would go with what's on their website.
I've experienced it a lot, similar to you, Sydney. It just really depends on the company, but it is always 100% always reach out to the recruiter just in case, because they're the ones who are in charge of like hiring you. And they're also in charge of updating the company website and Handshake. And so if you aren't sure, reach out to the recruiter, because then you've gone either face-to-face time with the recruiter or just like over the phone talking with the recruiter, which will go a long way, whether or not the opportunity is there or not. And B, then you'll actually have some like closure and probably won't waste your time like waiting to hear back. And then it also shows like initiative that you really are looking forward to hearing back from them, and you're wondering why like you haven't yet, or oh, I just want to hear more about the role and make sure that's still an opportunity that's available because I'm super excited about it and I'd love to work for you. Never hurts to reach out to the recruiter just to check.
And you guys are talking about how you think it's puts the recruiter's name on Handshake. Do you guys know where you'd find that, or should we just start hunting on LinkedIn?
Max, you maybe want to go through how you found the recruiter for your role?
Yeah, so looking through Handshake for this summer's internships, I know not all of them show who the recruiter is, but if it does, if you scroll down probably right under where it says submit application, that's where their name would be. If they're not on there, I just look up probably like campus recruiter or university relations on LinkedIn, and then try to find someone for your area and just reach out to them. And I know like I did that last year and she was actually the wrong person. So she sent me to the right recruiter. And generally I found that they're pretty helpful in that regard.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for the question. Our next question is, how can I prepare for the Winter Career Fair Bash and the STEM Career Fair during winter quarter? First, I just want to say it's awesome that you guys all found this event and registered. Keep checking your events tab on Handshake, because we have a lot of events that we sponsor at the Career Center, including our career fairs, which is what this question is about. And so, yeah, if you haven't been to the fall career fair before, definitely look out for the winter career fairs. And let's see, how can you prepare? Okay, yeah. Justin, you maybe want to go through how you would prepare for a career fair.
So basically when you sign up for a career fair, you sign up for certain companies at certain times. So once I figured out which companies I was going to go talk with for that day, I'd kind of do a little background research, what internships are available, just a little bit about the company. And then sometimes it shows you who's speaking. So just kind of coming ready with some questions for whoever's speaking at that company. I found that to be really helpful. And just be ready to connect, because a lot of times, from my experience at these career fairs, you make connections. And so when I applied to internships later in a month after that, career fair, I could go back to those connections I made at the career fair and ask them, like, how do I get ahead of this process? How do I make sure my resume gets to the second stage? So just be ready to make connections, because this is where you can ensure that you aren't ghosted. This is really where you can make those connections that help you get past that first stage and get to that interview portion of the process.
Yeah, Kristine or Max, how would you guys prepare for the winter career fair that's coming up?
Max, why don't you go first and I'll follow.
So the thing that I enjoyed most during the fall career fair, a lot of recruiters host, I think they're called like coffee sessions or coffee chats. And now they're virtual, but they're you learn just as much doing that. In order to prepare for those, I would kind of think of it as a real interview, because really you are there to sell yourself to the recruiter and hopefully hear about opportunities that they have at their company. Or even if you apply later on, it's helpful to have that connection. So normally the way that it goes, they do like a brief 30-second introduction, and then you tell them for like 30 seconds about who you are, what your background is, what you're interested in. So I would definitely make sure to have kind of like an elevator speech prepared, just that a high level overview of your background and why you are interested in that company specifically. You don't have to know about a specific role, but it's good to have like a basic understanding of what that company does and why you're like at that coffee chat. Other than that though, I'd make sure to have a polished resume and cover letter, just so if they ask for your resume, it's helpful to have it on hand. But other than that, I think just preparing questions like Justin said, and preparing like an elevator speech for yourself.
Yeah, speaking to Max and Justin's point, they covered a lot of what is really important to prepare for a career fair. I also would say that light LinkedIn stalking is always appreciated by recruiters. If you come in asking about their previous work experiences and be like, why did you move from, I don't know, let's say Microsoft to now you're in sales? Like, what was that transition like? I think I want to go into a career in tech, but I'm also thinking about sales and things like that. That goes a really long way to show that you are super interested, and they will remember you specifically if you have done your research on them. And so I think, at least for me, it's all about trying to form that personal connection to make sure that if you really actually do end up being interested in that job or that company, that at least one person will remember your name and be like, oh yeah, they asked me that really good question about trends in my industry, or really in depth about my work experience and want to get to know me. That's kind of how I prepared for the fall career fair. And oftentimes, like, even if you do step in a little bit unprepared, sometimes that helps you ask a lot more questions. But I would say, don't ask a question that you can Google, because that they will kind of be like, yeah, I mean, you can just Google our company and that will tell you. But ask questions that you really can't Google, and do research on your own, because like it's a great opportunity to find out what the company culture is actually like, what it's actually like to work there, and things like that from someone who does work there.
Awesome. Okay, if no one else wants to put any other questions in the chat, we're going to move on to our last prepared question, which is how to best organize myself and manage my time with career-related tasks and goals. Justin, you want to start with this one? Like, how did you effectively manage your time to like get the job that you ended up getting for this summer?
So I guess we're all busy with school and different stuff. So it's kind of hard, it can be overwhelming knowing that you have to apply to X amount of internships. So kind of like I said, whether it's over winter break or whether it's during the semester, I guess quarter when you're busy, just try and do something every day. So I just like write down on a piece of paper, like Monday, I'm going to apply to this internship, or today I'm going to reach out to 3 people like X company, just kind of break it up day by day. You could have like a plan for the entire week just to kind of make it seem more manageable. That'd be kind of my recommendation for organizing your tasks and making sure it's not too overwhelming.
Awesome. And Kristine or Max, you guys have anything you would add to how you kind of organize your time, or Kristine, how you're currently organizing your time?
Yeah, so how I kind of like to organize my time, at least I like to have like a very specific goal in mind. And so my goal is to have an internship lined up by February of 2022. And so that kind of helps me gauge like how much I need to do each week. And so I really started applying heavily in October. And honestly, like for me, it kind of goes in waves of like how many internships I apply to or how many interviews I have per week. Everyone that works at the Career Center knows that last week I had like 5 or 6 interviews, and this week I only had 2. And so I would say definitely what Justin says of like organizing your time or taking like the weekend, or just instead of checking social media, try to like look for a job or something like that. But it honestly goes in waves of like, are you actually really excited for this opportunity or not? And honestly, if you're not, then obviously still apply for something that you think is cool. But I would encourage you to apply more into depth and spend more time on opportunities that you're really excited about, because they can tell, like recruiters can tell whether you're excited or not, based on your application. But yeah.
Max, do you have anything to add? It's okay if not.
I don't really have anything to add, but I think just reiterating both of their points, it's really important to have a plan, because it's easy to get overwhelmed with all the applications, because you could probably like apply to at 10 or 20 internships, and each application takes longer than you would think, because ideally you want to tailor your resume, and you definitely have to tailor your cover letter to each job. So just try to do like 1 application per day, and it makes it much more manageable.
Thanks. Okay, if anyone has any last questions, feel free to come off mute and ask them, or put them in the chat. If not, that concludes our Q&A session. Thank you all so much for coming. We will probably be doing more of these winter quarter, so look out for that. But yeah, it was really great answering your guys' questions, and I hope that this was helpful for you. And yeah, I hope that your job and internship search goes well. But yeah. Please.